Hey you guys, I'm in my little athletic wear. Not really. Well, it is what I wear when I'm like working out or like running or stuff, but it's just an old t-shirt, so not really. Whatever. Um, Let me tell you what's been happening. So I got food poisoning, I assume. At first, I thought it might be COVID. But after like day 2, I'm like, I think this is food poisoning. Friday afternoon, early afternoon, I was running late and I wanted to make like a good enough lunch. So I was like, okay, I'll just have a salmon patty, which is just like a turkey patty, like a hamburger patty, but salmon. And I'll make a little burger. But I was running late, like I said, so please ignore the plane. I don't want to keep stopping. I'm sorry. So I was like rushing, and I had the heat up a little bit higher, and I was going back more frequently to like flip it over because I didn't want it to burn, and I wanted to make sure it got cooked on both sides. Like, I've always done this, but I hadn't eaten a salmon patty in a while, and that was the last one in the box. So it could have been that the salmon patty just got bad, but it also could have been that because I was hurrying up, I didn't cook it well enough. But that's a little update about what's been going on with me. Just not having fun, just being in bed. I missed out on things this weekend because I wasn't feeling well. It just kind of sucks. But that kind of brings me to what today's video is actually about. And I mentioned it just last video. I wasn't expecting to do it already, but I'm going to be doing a little bit of an ASL video today. Or not a little bit. I'm going to be doing an ASL video. And I hope that it is informative and it showcases sign language in a positive light. Sign language is a non-verbal form of communication, and I know that you may probably have some assumptions, some thoughts about this whole world, this whole community, but I did want to do a bit of a introduction, of course. So sign language, you probably know, is used by people who are deaf or hard of hearing. And what is deaf and what is hard of hearing? Hard of hearing is, well, the difference between them is more, it can be defined as the degree of hearing loss. So deaf means that it is like very severe hearing loss, whereas hard of hearing is more mild to moderate. So here is the hearing people. Here is the hard of hearing. And then here is the deaf people. Very, very simply broken down, but there's ranges between all of those. You can be a hearing person and be closer to being hard of hearing than you are to someone else on the hearing spectrum. And there's, we're all so different. There's so much diversity in the hard of hearing and deaf community, and it's not something that's stagnant. You don't have to be born deaf. You can get hearing loss through an array of different things. One of them is being exposed to a very loud noise, of course, damaging your ear, but you can also get it through age. the wear and tear of noises, they can damage and affect your hearing. And, just a lot. There's different types of hearing losses, different ways you can get each type of those hearing losses. So, like I said, it's not, being in the deaf community isn't something that is there from the get-go. You're not a part of that group when you reach a certain age. Like, there's no definite criteria for who you have to be or how long you've had to have lived to be deaf, to be hard of hearing. I think one of the misconceptions is that when you get old, you're gonna go deaf, and that's not true. Not all old people are horrible at seeing, horrible at hearing. There might be different, but we're all experiencing hearing loss. Things that we could hear as a baby, as a 5-year-old, as a 10-year-old, we can't hear 10, 15, 30, 60 years later. That doesn't mean that we're all deaf now. We've lived, we've heard a lot of things, and that's just how it is. And besides all that, it's not like it's a bad thing. It's not something that is just unfathomable. Being deaf isn't a punishment. I don't think that it is something that should be considered like a complete horrible thing, because I feel like that's like really disrespectful to people who are part of the deaf community. It's just something that I have really connected with because of a show. So I watched Switched at Birth like 2 years ago, and I was just so fascinated by the sign language in that show. And I was like, I'm learning this. And I stuck with it for like almost a year. And I stopped a little bit after I finished the show. So yeah, that was like 2 years ago when I started. So maybe it's been like a year and a half that I took a break from signing, and I started the show again, and I started signing again, and I'm surprised on how much I remembered. And because of that, now instead of like going back, I'm just going forward. I'm adding on, I'm learning more. And it's so great because communication is so important. And just because someone can't or doesn't want to talk doesn't mean that they don't deserve to be heard, that they don't deserve to have people communicating with them. So I just feel like, why would I not want to learn sign language? Why would I know that I can learn something to communicate with a huge community of people and not do it? That's just how I see it. I mean, you can translate things on your phone if you have to, if you're speaking to someone in another language, a verbal language that you don't understand. Although, I encourage you to learn another language as well, a verbal language. But with sign language, it's a non-verbal form of communication. You can't really just translate like that. So I just feel like it's a really important thing to do and to know. I had never met anyone that was deaf, and I did 1 year ago, almost a year ago. I'm pretty sure it was last summer. And yeah, I wanted to learn before I'd even met a deaf person because I was like, I want to be ready for that. So the people who can use sign language, who do use sign language, who may benefit from using sign language, include people who are deaf or hard of hearing, but it can also include, which I think is becoming more and more popular, it can be used amongst babies. They can't verbalize their wants, their needs yet. So sign language is a way to help them communicate with their caregivers so that they can get what they need. And it's not so much of a guessing game. And it's just, it's better for both parties. It can also be used for people of all ages with autism, with speech delays, anything that keeps them from being able to speak as well. So it's not just the hearing thing, but people who have, like I said, autism, or people who just have other types of ailments, disorders that impact and affect their speech, they can still use sign language even though they can hear, because speech is an important part of talking. And if that's not something they can do, not something they're comfortable with, something that they just don't want to do, then they can still communicate. They can just use sign language instead. So, and then of course, people who are like family members, people who are deaf, they're hard of hearing, or have any reason to use sign language, they can learn. It's just very open. Like, yeah, there might be certain groups that are more likely to use sign language, but it's not an exclusive little club. Like, you can learn sign language even if you're not part of any of those groups that I just mentioned. And the reason why I do mention them is because I do also want, for people who aren't in that community, who don't sign, I think it's important to realize how many people do sign. And even if you don't need it, like I said at the beginning of the video, I think that it's important to know and be able to communicate with people. We shouldn't exclude them because we're not dealing with that. I just think that it's, I don't know, my duty. Like, I want to be able to talk to people, make them feel included. When I see someone, I want to be able to communicate with them. I don't want them to have to work so much harder so that I don't have to do anything. And I highly recommend watching Switched at Birth if you have not. And if you're going to watch just one episode, I would say, I mean, in every episode, I think there's good examples of how it's hard living as a deaf person in a hearing world. But, and I'm not saying that as like they're living a tragedy, no. Like, they are amazing with how they adapt and everything. But there's one episode where they do it completely silent. It's all sign language. And the parts where they're not signing, you don't know what they're saying unless you can read lips. So I think it's a very immersive episode. And I just think if you're gonna watch one, I guess I would say watch that one. But I honestly have started thinking about watching that show, but just putting it on mute to like help me immerse in that world, so I can learn my sign language better. And honestly, watching that show too makes me realize how, well, it gets me a little taste of how it is not being able to hear, because there are parts of that show, just in general, every episode, where they do just sign because there's conversations between at least one person who can't hear. So during those portions, I can't not look at my screen because then I don't know what's going on. So there's just these little things where you pick up and you just appreciate so much more. And this whole video is just me kind of gushing about that community. And yeah, I will continue on now. Hi, my name is Vanessa, Vanessa. Now I'm going to shine the alphabet: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. I honestly think the only way I learned the alphabet was just by repeating that over and over again. I think I just like kind of blocked it and was like, okay, let me do these few letters, let me get that down, and then let me slowly add on. And like I didn't do just A B C D and then the next day the next chunk, and then the next day the next chunk. I did A B C D, then I did A B C D E F G, and I went like that, so I'm not like forgetting. And I can practice and repeat the ones that I already did. I just felt like that was more beneficial. This is good and very important. You have to put it on your lips. Good. And then you can hold your hand out like this and go bad, or you can just go like this. And I say that it's important to put your hand up here towards your lips, because if you do it down here, that would mean thank you. So another thing to consider with sign language, it is actually very important to look at where the hand placement is, because it can be a very similar action, but depending on where your hand is, that can change what it means. So good, bad, thank you. I also want to make sure you guys aren't like just listening to me. I have looked at like different places, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. But I haven't taken an ASL class like at a place. I've only met one deaf person, so I haven't learned from a deaf person. So I could be doing some things wrong, and I don't want to tell you guys wrong information. So I'm telling you guys what I know, but that might not be perfect. So now I'll move on to other like familial type terms or like person type terms. So this is dad, and this is mom. This is grandpa, and this is grandma. This is boy, and this is girl. I think I'll do a greeting. So like, hi, nice to meet you. There are some signs that are actually just like what you would expect them to be, like book, that would be book, fish, boat, like, on the water. I feel like I should have really structured this out because I'm kind of just going all over the place. I'm really sorry. I just think that it's so fun knowing all this. Like, I'm so happy and excited, and I want to keep learning, and I want to be able to talk. So now I think I'm just gonna do some signs that I've learned that I'm happy and proud of myself for knowing. So this is just gonna be like a rapid fire type thing. And yeah, I guess you'll just learn some random words. In, out, no, don't know. Sorry, I got a notification. Facial expressions are also very key. It's kind of like context clues. It can be very confusing. So going like that and being like, yeah, I know. And when you don't know, making some sort of sign with your facial expressions, what the difference is. It helps a lot. I'm gonna say this jokingly, but for this part, I'm going to be doing my favorite signs. So the first one is I'm sorry. And the last sign of this video is going to be I love you. And that was my little class. I hope that you learned. I hope that this was, I don't know if it's going to be exciting for you, but I just hope that it was interesting and it's making you want to look more into sign language. This is specifically American Sign Language that I'm doing. There are different sign languages for different languages. So there's British, there's Spanish, there's no one type of sign language, one universal sign language that everybody uses. It depends on where you are, the region, everything. Even though I know American Sign Language, that doesn't mean that I can just go anywhere and know sign language. Sure, there potentially will be some overlappings. I don't know to what degree, but that is something to keep in mind. You can learn sign language, but you don't have to learn American Sign Language. So there's just, it's like a whole world, it's amazing. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you got to learn at least a little bit of like the details, the backstory-ish. I didn't actually go into like how sign language was developed, which maybe I'll have to do in another video, but I did kind of talk about deafness and who uses sign language. So at least I hope that was something that either was helpful to you or got you to get rid of those stereotypes that you might have had, those assumptions that you might have had. And I thank you for being here. Thank you for watching this video. Really, thank you, especially for this one. Thank you. I hope that you have an amazing day, an amazing week, an amazing month, an amazing year, and an amazing life. And I will see you guys later.